Mexico's president vows there will be no invasion after reports that Trump is targeting cartels with military force. What reports?
Office. Mexico's president says she's rejected an offer by President Donald Trump to send U.S. troops into Mexico to help fight drug cartels. Since Mr. Trump took office, the U.S. has quickly increased its military presence along the southern border and off the Gulf Coast. Senior national security correspondent Charlie Daggett joins me now from the Pentagon to talk through this. So, Charlie, why is this something the president wants?
Your face is sinking.
Well, John, Trump said that given the chance, he would like to launch strikes inside Mexico. Now, unleashing drone strikes on suspected targets in a neighboring country like Mexico without that government's consent would certainly be unprecedented, if not...
Okay, so is there any evidence that this is happening? Because the article is titled, "After reports that Trump is targeting cartels with military force." That he plans to? Following reports that Trump has ordered the U.S. military to target Latin American drug... Dude, CBS... Targeting cartels with military force and has ordered the military to target Latin American drug cartels are not the same statements. Yeah, we'll see if something actually happens.
An outright breach of international law, but we live in uncommon times. So President Trump designated the cartels as a foreign terrorist organization really on Inauguration Day, saying they're a threat to national security and declaring a national emergency. So that's the reason he's given for essentially militarizing the border. He opened up these two national defense areas, is what they're calling them, stretching for hundreds of miles, but only 60 feet across, filling it with thousands of active duty service members and military equipment.
And can you walk us through what has been...
None of that is new news. I'm a Euroid. Are cartels actually that big of a deal in the U.S.? Yeah. Cartels run a significant portion of Mexico. They have, like, huge influence over the government. They have territory that they control, more or less. They war over territory. They're a big deal. Yeah. Mexico has not been able to control them for a long time.
Done so far, Charlie, at the southern border with respect to the military?
Yeah, so last week, the SecDef senior advisor, Sean Parnell, said they deployed 11,900 active duty troops to protect the southwest border, establishing those national defense areas. And according to him, border crossings are down 99.99%. They've also deployed 2 U.S. destroyers, the USS Gravely to the Gulf, call it what you will, and the USS Stockdale off the coast of Southern California. They sent military equipment like Stryker brigades. And it's also worth pointing out the units that have been sent here. Yes, they are in close proximity to those areas, but we're talking about the 10th Mountain Brigade, the most deployed Army unit in the services.
To be fair, to a certain degree, Mexico has always been unwilling to make the situation better. Yeah, but it's kind of complicated. The problem is that the cartels are, like any gang, well integrated into the environments they live in, and they are heavily they have heavy influence over local government. So if you go after the cartels, all of a sudden politicians start dying, politicians' family members start dying. It's not like a clear-cut war, you know? It's difficult.
In Iraq and Afghanistan, most recently in Syria, elements of the 3rd and 4th Infantry Division, Marine Expeditionary Forces. So, John, these are combat teams because as the defense...
As we know, American gangs have no power within our government. I mean, largely to an extent, that's true. Gangs in America, the most powerful gangs in America probably nowadays are prison gangs, and they're very disorganized, very loosely organized. They exist only at the behest of the state. But like non-prison gangs in America aren't that influential. They've just lost a lot of their income streams, you know? It's harder and harder to get away with crime now that everyone has a cell phone. It's difficult to imagine nowadays, but back in the 1970s, the 1980s, sex trafficking and drug trafficking was the kind of thing where you could like go to a block in New York City or Brooklyn or whatever, and you could just like, they're just open, I wouldn't say open markets, but like they didn't have to worry about everyone having internet access and a camera, you know? Crime used to be a lot more open. Not so much anymore. And as a consequence of that and a variety of other things, it's just more difficult to run a gang operation. A lot of that's just because what used to be the purview of gangs has been folded into regular legitimate companies. Las Vegas used to be completely owned by gangs. Literally, just like the whole strip was like proper you know, gangster gangs. Like, yeah, see, you know, like that, like fedora, trilby, suit, you know, the mob. And nowadays they're not because anything really super interesting happened, but just eventually all those mob bosses got, you know, bullied out or bought out by big corporations. And now all of the strip is owned by like 2 companies. Even the mafia never had armies like the cartels do. Yeah, the cartel does have like military equipment. You can't really get away with that in the United States, you know? Don't rednecks have military equipment? Sure, but they're not a cartel. They're just rednecks. There are right-wing militias in America. Do you think drug cartels in Mexico could weaponize these militias against the U.S.? What are you talking about? Why did I read that out loud? Mexico weaponizing right-wing militias in the United States against America? If we're what are you talking about? Go back to Hearts of Iron 4. How are PMCs allowed to have military equipment? Because there's nothing necessarily illegal about military equipment. Like, an armored car is a legal own. As long as it's street legal and it's not too wide, you can own an armored car if you want.
Secretary explains it. They're looking for 100% operational security of the border, and this is a war.
Shut up. The difference between American militias and rednecks and the cartel is that cartels have like tanks and shit. Also, the cartels have billions of dollars. The cartels are like an extremely well-organized, regimented criminal organization with thousands of people on payroll, with contracts and like specific negotiated responsibilities and roles for people and direct chains of command. They're not like a stupid militia. The New York Times is claiming that Trump secretly signed the order. Huh. Well, I guess we'll see how that goes. Don't the cartels have people all throughout the U.S. too? Sure, I mean, they have people they work with. Yeah, the cartels bribe or employ people across the border in the United States. They bribe police officers who look the other way when drugs are trafficked in. They you know, mules and so on. Yeah, of course. But they don't operate here militarily. Well, I guess we're going to war with Mexico. If we went to war with cartels, we'd basically have enemy combatants in every city hiding now, which is like, in Mexico, yes. Not in America. The cartel does not have the means nor the motivation to engage in asymmetrical warfare in America. They operate in Mexico. We're just the client they sell to, you know, to a large extent. But we would not get the brunt of that. Mexico, however, would be driven into shit if there was like real sustained conflict with the cartels. Is it true that if the U.S. made drugs legal, the cartels would fall? Not so much, no. The cartel's drug trade hasn't been as robust lately because A, weed is legal. B, a lot of weed was already grown in the United States anyway. C, there are things that cartel does that would not be made legal, like, for example, kidnapping, trafficking, and other kinds of organized crime that aren't drugs. Those are going to stay illegal. And also, a lot of fentanyl does come in from China, you know, indirectly. So it's the cartel's like a cash inflow, probably like the mob, you know, historically, probably doesn't mostly come from one source, but rather from a wide range of sources. They have their eggs in a lot of baskets, you know? Yeah, and a lot of legitimate business as well, like their mob, you know? They run protection rackets. They own and operate businesses all across Mexico and, to an extent, the United States. Passive income streams that are legal, that they pay taxes on. Avocados, sure. Yeah, except they usually extort farmers for that avocado. Well, they got to make their living somehow. This is actually a huge deal. It's not clear if the executive order Trump is signing about engaging in military action against Mexico includes language about obtaining Congress's consent. I can take a guess. A president signed an executive order to engage in across-the-border military action, getting the consent of Congress. Jesus Christ, what are you, a child? Are you an infant? A White House spokesperson said Trump remains committed to, quote, protecting the homeland. It's so gay, dude. Nobody in America talked like this. This like obsession with reflecting the language of internet neo-Nazis, nobody talked like this before. The fatherland, the motherland, the homeland. These were not like widely used terms, even in American conservative circles, you know? It's cut whole cloth from like internet fascists parroting the language of European fascists. George W. Bush called it homeland. Every person can call America homeland if they're referring to it as their home country, but it's not widely used language. Like, for example, the way the Germans said fatherland, right? That was not just like an occasional turn of phrase. It was integrated into their colloquial language. Colloquially, people do not go homeland this, homeland that. But the Department of Homeland Security has been non-stop repping that term. So has the White House. It was not used this frequently prior to this administration. It really sticks out for America? Well, the main reason it really sticks out for America is that America is, for the ethnic groups that founded it, not the homeland. We were a colony up until quite recently, up until 250 or some years ago. Like, the reason they talked motherland this, fatherland this with Soviet Union or the way China talks or the Nazis talk is because they're hearkening to like their ancient blood and soil connection to the land. They're talking about shit that goes back before nation states, before a bureaucracy even. They're talking about ethnic groups that have, at least theoretically, been there for millennia. Can't really say that about America. Yeah, but now everything off of Homeland Security. Defend your culture. Serve your country. Defend your culture. Protect the homeland. Yeah. Nobody talked like this. Well, glad I don't live in LA anymore.